how the system tricked you into waiving your rights and wealth. Peace, love, and light, Royals! Welcome back to another powerful lesson on reclaiming your sovereignty, wealth, and identity. In previous lessons, we've uncovered how your birth certificate and social security number were used to classify you as a corporate entity rather than a sovereign being. The U.S. legal system operates under private merchant law, treating people as assets in a commercial system. International treaties and religious protections provide a legal basis for reclaiming your nationality and estate. Now, we're going deeper into how the system tricked you into waiving your rights and wealth without you even realizing it. Today's lesson will cover 1. The art of psychological manipulation, how they conditioned you to comply. 2. Contracts and tacit agreements, how you were deceived into giving up your sovereignty. 3. The miseducation of the Negro, the school system's role in keeping you enslaved. 4. How corporations and governments profit off of your ignorance. 5. Demonstrations of how you are still waiving your rights today. 6. How to reverse the damage and reclaim what is yours. Each section will include real-world examples, historical references, and actionable steps you can take to break free. Grab your notebook and pen because you will want to take copious notes. Let's begin. The art of psychological manipulation, how they conditioned you to comply. From birth, you were taught to obey, conform, and accept authority without question. This was done through a system of psychological conditioning designed to make you fear breaking the rules, convince you that questioning authority is dangerous, program you to accept false identities and inferior status. How this was done: fear-based conditioning. As a child, you were trained to obey rules out of fear of punishment, rather than understanding true law and justice. Social engineering. Through media, schools, and laws, you were conditioned to believe that government and corporations are your protectors, when in reality, they are your controllers. Learned helplessness. You were taught that you have no power to change your situation, so you don't even try. This process of mental conditioning ensured that by the time you reached adulthood, you would be docile, obedient, and unwilling to challenge the system. Now that we understand how they conditioned you to comply, let's break down how they legally tricked you into waiving your rights. Part 2. Contracts and tacit agreements, how you were deceived into giving up your sovereignty. One of the biggest secrets about the legal system is that everything operates on contracts, and many of the rights you think you lost were actually given away through deception. The government and corporations cannot legally take your rights from you, they must trick you into waiving them. This is done through tacit agreements, which means you unknowingly agree to something simply by not objecting or by participating. Examples of how you were deceived through contracts. 1. Your birth certificate, the first contract you never agreed to. When your birth was registered, a corporate entity, a straw man, was created in your name. The state became the trustee over this entity, while you unknowingly acted as the surety, the one responsible for debts and obligations. Your parents unknowingly signed you into the system by filling out government forms without understanding what they really meant. Solution. Understanding that your birth certificate represents a legal fiction, not the real you, is the first step to reclaiming your sovereignty. Not 2. Driver's licenses and state IDs, implied consent to corporate jurisdiction. When you apply for a driver's license, you are unknowingly agreeing to operate under statutory law rather than common law. The moment you sign the application, you give up your rights in exchange for state privileges. You also agree to follow traffic codes and regulations that only apply to corporate entities, not sovereign individuals. Solution. Learn the difference between traveling as a sovereign being versus driving as a corporate entity under state-issued privileges. 3. The court system, voluntary submission to maritime law. When you step into a courtroom and answer to the all-caps version of your name, you are agreeing to be represented as a corporation rather than a living being. The judge operates under admiralty law, corporate law, not constitutional law, meaning they assume authority over you unless you properly challenge jurisdiction. Pleading guilty, not guilty, or no contest all place you under the court's jurisdiction. Solution. Learn how to challenge jurisdiction properly before engaging in court proceedings. 4. Paying taxes without question, unknowingly accepting debtor status. The IRS operates as a private corporation, and most people unknowingly agree to pay taxes because they never rebut the presumption that they are required to. The government does not force taxation. It operates under the assumption that you agree to be taxed by using a social security number and filing tax returns. This is why the tax code is written in confusing language, so that people accept it without questioning whether they are truly obligated to pay. Solution. Study tax laws, understand who is truly liable for income tax, and learn how to navigate financial structures lawfully. Tacit agreements, how silence equals consent. In legal terms, silence is agreement. This means that if the system presumes something about you and you do not challenge it, you are legally assumed to agree. You never declared your nationality? Then they assume you are a corporate U.S. citizen. You never objected to being taxed? Then they assume you agreed to be a taxpayer. You never challenged a court's jurisdiction? Then they assume you accepted their authority over you. Solution: understanding the power of rebutting presumptions is crucial to reclaiming your rights. How to begin undoing these contracts and agreements. 1. Declare your nationality and correct your status. If you do not, the system assumes you are a corporate U.S. citizen, subject to their laws. 2. Learn how to challenge jurisdiction. Do not let courts assume control over you without proper legal standing. 3. Understand how to use contract law to your advantage. The system operates on contracts, meaning you can lawfully remove yourself from obligations you never knowingly agreed to. Now that we understand how contracts were used to trick you, let's examine how the education system was designed to keep you ignorant and compliant. Part 4. How the school system funnels you into the prison and corporate system. The school-to-prison pipeline is one of the most deliberate and well-documented systems used to ensure that melanated people, especially young men, remain under government control for life. What is the school-to-prison pipeline? It is a system where schools, police, and courts work together to push children, especially melanated children, out of education and into the criminal justice system. Zero-tolerance policies. Children are criminalized for minor behavior issues that were once handled in school. Over-policing in schools. Officers are stationed in schools, increasing the likelihood of arrests over discipline. Unfair punishment and racial disparities. Melanated children are suspended, expelled, and arrested at far higher rates than their white counterparts for the same behaviors. Pushing kids toward crime and incarceration. Once kids are labeled troublemakers or criminals, they are targeted by the legal system early on, making them more likely to end up in juvenile detention and later in prison. For a deeper breakdown of how this system works, check out Michi X and her platform MX Network on YouTube. She exposes these tactics and psychological warfare strategies that keep our people trapped. Link in the video description. How the government and corporations profit from this pipeline. Privatized prisons. Many prisons are for-profit corporations that sign contracts with governments requiring a minimum number of prisoners to keep their contracts active. Prison labor equals modern slavery. Inmates are forced to work for pennies, while corporations like McDonald's, Victoria's Secret, and AT&T profit from their labor. Once you're in the system, it's hard to get out. A criminal record affects job opportunities, housing, and access to resources, keeping people locked in a cycle of economic servitude. The connection between the prison system and your legal status. When a person enters the prison system, they are essentially classified as property of the state, stripped of their rights, and forced into a system of labor that mimics slavery. The 14th Amendment, which supposedly granted citizenship, actually redefined slavery under the prison system by allowing involuntary servitude as punishment for a crime. This is why many sovereign individuals and Moroccan Moorish nationals focus on correcting their status. Because once you are legally seen as a free national and not a U.S. corporate citizen, you have stronger legal standing against this system. Real-life examples of how the school and prison system work together. 1. A 6-year-old girl was arrested for having a tantrum in school. 2. High school students were suspended for wearing natural hairstyles deemed unprofessional. 3. Black children make up only 15% of U.S. students, but account for nearly 40% of school suspensions and arrests. Private prison companies lobbied for 3 strikes and mandatory minimum laws to guarantee high prison populations. Ash, how to protect yourself and your children from the system. Know your child's rights in school. Schools will intimidate parents into thinking they have no say, demand due process, and challenge unfair policies. Don't sign away your power. Many parents unknowingly waive rights when signing school documents. Read everything carefully. Educate outside the system. Homeschooling, community education, and national schools are ways to break free from state-controlled programming. Correct your status. The legal classification of U.S. citizen ties you to this corporate system. Reclaiming your nationality strengthens your position against these laws. Now that we've covered how schools and prisons work together to keep you trapped, let's move into how corporations and governments profit from keeping you financially ignorant. Part 3. The miseducation of the Negro, how the school system was designed to keep you enslaved. The education system plays one of the biggest roles in ensuring that people remain unaware of their rights, history, and true financial power. The book, The Miseducation of the Negro, by Carter G. Woodson exposes how schools were intentionally structured to train people to be obedient workers, not sovereign thinkers. The same applies to all Americans, but it was especially enforced in communities of melanated people to prevent them from reclaiming their nationality and wealth. How the school system keeps people in mental bondage. 1. Schools train you to obey, not to think. Schools follow a strict obedience-based system. Sit down, follow instructions, memorize, and repeat. Questioning authority is discouraged. Students are rewarded for compliance, not critical thinking. The grading system is designed to rank and classify people as successful based on how well they obey. Effect. By adulthood, people are conditioned to believe that authorities are always right and that questioning government, banks, and laws is dangerous or pointless. 2. Important subjects like law and finance are left out. Schools never teach how the legal system really works. They only teach enough to ensure you follow the rules. No classes on contract law, financial literacy, taxation, or trust law, subjects that would empower you to reclaim your wealth. Instead, schools focus on history rewritten by the system, ensuring that people do not understand their true lineage and sovereignty. Effect. Most people graduate without ever learning the basic laws that govern their own identity and finances, leaving them vulnerable to legal and financial manipulation. 3. The history you learned was a lie. The curriculum erases or distorts the history of Moroccan Moorish nationals, indigenous peoples, and pre-colonial civilizations. The U.S. education system reinforces the idea that people were only given rights through colonial law, rather than already possessing sovereignty. Historical figures who challenge the system are either downplayed, demonized, or completely removed from textbooks. Effect. Without true historical knowledge, people cannot see how their nationality and wealth were stolen, making them easier to control. The psychological impact of how to sell to the Negro. Corporations studied how to keep Black people spending money instead of building wealth. The book and documentary How to Sell to the Negro expose how businesses designed marketing to make Black consumers prioritize status symbols over economic power. This is why certain brands and luxury goods are marketed heavily in our communities, while true wealth-building resources are withheld. Effect. Instead of investing in land, gold, trust funds, and estate planning, many people were programmed to spend on liabilities that generate wealth for corporations, not themselves. Real-world examples of how this system plays out today. People believe they must get a job rather than build an estate or a trust. Legal terms like citizen, resident, and taxpayer are misinterpreted because schools never teach what they truly mean. Most people don't read contracts before signing them because school never taught them how. Young people are pushed into debt, student loans, credit cards, without financial literacy, keeping them trapped before they even start life. Solution. Understanding that you were intentionally miseducated is the first step to reclaiming power over your identity, finances, and legal status. Now that we've covered how the school system was used to keep you uninformed, let's explore how corporations and governments profit off of your ignorance. Part 6, final section. Josh, how to reverse the damage and start reclaiming your sovereignty and wealth. Now that you understand how the system was designed to keep you trapped, the next step is knowing how to break free. This is not just about learning the truth, it's about taking action. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you realize how deep the system runs. You might be thinking, where do I even start? Is it too late to change my status? What if people reject me for thinking differently? What if I make a mistake? Let me tell you right now, I understand. I've been exactly where you are. I've felt the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty. But let me also tell you this. You are not alone. There is an entire community of people walking this same path. People who are learning, growing, and reclaiming their wealth and sovereignty one step at a time. And I am here to assist you every step of the way. Action steps to start your journey today. Step 1. Correct your status and declare your nationality. If you do not formally correct your status, the system assumes you agree to be a U.S. corporate citizen. Learn the legal process of reclaiming your nationality and estate so that you can operate outside of their jurisdiction. Step 2. Protect your assets and wealth. Stop operating in your all-caps corporate name and start learning how to manage your estate, trust, and financial resources as a sovereign being. Invest in gold, silver, and land instead of consumer goods that have no value. Step 3. Learn contract law and legal language. The system runs on contracts. Start learning how to read agreements carefully before signing anything. Understand legal terminology so that you do not unknowingly agree to terms that strip you of your rights. Step 4. Connect with like-minded people. Surround yourself with people who are on the same path. Check out platforms like AMPAC Study Sessions by Brother J. Jermaine Bey and In God We Trust Academy by Brother Eric Ingram Bey to continue learning. Links in the description. Step 5. Take action. Even if it's just one small step today. No one expects you to master everything overnight. Start with one action, whether it's studying legal definitions, watching a documentary, or reading a book on sovereignty. Progress is progress. Just don't stop. You are not alone. You have the resources and support you need. I know this is a lot to take in. I know it can feel intimidating, even scary. But I promise you, you are not alone. You have access to all the resources you need to get started. You have access to people who are on this path with you and will support you. You have access to technology, books, videos, and legal documents that can help guide you. You are more than capable of taking control of your future. This system has been designed to make you feel powerless, but you are anything but powerless. A special thank you to those supporting this mission. To everyone who has sent a donation, thank you. Your contributions make it possible for me to continue creating these lessons, providing resources, and spreading this knowledge. If you would like to support this work and gain exclusive access to my private resource library, send a $25 donation to ShayMarieInc@gmail.com via PayPal or mpresshaymarie on CashApp. Visit shayspeaktruth.com for t-shirts that represent truth and sovereignty, gold and silver investment opportunities, cryptocurrency education, additional resources on reclaiming your wealth. Final words. You were born wealthy and royal. Now it's time to claim it. You were never meant to be a slave to this system. You were born a sovereign being, an heir to a national estate, and a holder of divine wealth. It's time to claim what is rightfully yours. It's time to stop living under the rules of a system that was never designed for your benefit. And you do not have to do it alone. We are in this together. I will continue to bring you the knowledge, resources, and guidance you need to take action. But the power is in your hands. Stay aware, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Peace, love, and light.